Hello and good evening. So, my topic and my speech was about wood carving. So, how it all started is back in 1998 and 90, well, actually, I believe it was 97. I used to work at a scout camp in Payson, Utah. And at that scout camp, I met a guy named Bill Butch, and he was really known as a wood carver for bolo ties. And I would watch him carve and everything, and that's how I kind of got into the wood carving thing. Now, a lot of people uh, wood carve. People wood carve, many different wood carvers out there, but a lot of people do it for three reasons: stress relief, a good hobby to have, easy to maintain. Not a lot. Well, I guess there is a lot of money that you can spend on it, or you can spend very little money and get into the wood carving. Um, so what started my journey into this wood carving is watching this guy who's made thousands and thousands of bolo ties and did a lot with Boy Scouts and scouting events and everything. And it got my passion, and I got a passion for wood carving, and I enjoyed it. It's a good hobby. It's a good skill to have. Eye-hand coordination, something to keep you busy. And some people who don't have really patience for one thing would have patience for another thing. Well, I'm one of those people who don't really have patience for a lot of things. But to sit down and wood carve, I have patience and time, and I can relax, and the cares and worries of my stress goes away. And so that's my story, my journey, and the reason why I want you guys to learn about this, or my thesis, I guess I would say, was, well, it's a good hobby to get into. Trying to think, it's a fairly well known hobby. I think a lot of people who do wood carving or woodworking dabble in the wood carving aspect a little bit, or people who build furniture and that. You see it on gun stocks, you see it on mantelpieces, you see it on cabinets and dressers and bed frames, and the wood carving is such a vast thing that a lot of people do, and it is something that it's a common thing, but uncommon in a way that a lot of people do it, but not everyone does it. So it's those different types of carvings. Those wood carving with hand tools, those chip carving, those palette carving that they use high-speed engravers to do gun stocks and engrave on metal plates and stuff, with the high-speed engravers that are designed for that type of aspect. People use Dremels to do wood carvings and to make walking sticks, and so there's many different things in the wood carving field. And so just a few things I want to show you is, like I said, I started out making bolo ties. So here's a bolo tie. I don't know if you can see it. It's I call it my old man. Now I do probably about 10 or 20 different designs. I got a bolo, an old man design here. This is a nurse. I got Santa Clauses, and I do Native American ones, bolo ties. I have a whole bucket. Well, this is my bucket. I have a whole bucket here, and what I do is I carve them up. My sailor. I don't know if you can see that. So I carve them up. I put strings on them, and I sell them as a little hobby or gift. I have an Etsy site, or I also have a YouTube page, and just trying to, sell, and this is my hobby. That's what I do to make a little extra income, and that's what I do to share with people. The guy who taught me and I learned from, he would carve them up, and if you're ever in the scouting field, or anything about Boy Scouts, they live a law called the Scout Law. It's 12 points of the Scout Law. And it means a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And so what he would do is if he saw a scout that was showing that, living that scout law and doing his best and showing a good example, he would give them one, and he would give them out as a gift and something they owned, and it made a lot of difference in a lot of kids' lives. And so that's how I kind of got into it, is I enjoyed it. I was never given one. I learned to, he gave a lot away, but he gave a lot away to leaders and things, and some leaders got some and some leaders didn't get them, and he gave them, I bought one from him, and I use his patterns a lot in my style and everything, but I gave it a lot away also. But like I said before, there's many different types of carving. There's, that type of carving that I do for bolo ties is called a character carving. You see just the head and the facial features. You got something like this called a chip carving. Well, I put a pattern on a piece of wood, and I just carve out little pieces of the pattern, little slivers or chips to make the design. Now, on a gun stock, I don't have a gun stock with me, you may see what you call a relief carving. Well, it feels like the carving is popping off the piece of wood. So there's many different aspects of wood carving. It's a stress reliever. It's a good hobby to have. It's a good skill to teach young kids, knife safety. You have a young son or a kid, teach them how to wood carve. Then they'll learn how to control a knife, how to handle a knife, how to be safe with a knife, how to sharpen a knife. All that is involved in wood carving, and you have to know all that. A lot of people don't just use pocket knives. I know a guy who uses one of those safety X-Acto knives. That's what he carves with. A lot of people buy wood carving specific knives. A lot of people use pocket knives. A lot of people make their own knives, or use utility knives that they sharpen down and make them really surgical sharp. There's different ways of using different knives. But that's my speech and about wood carving and why it's important to me. And that is important to me because of the passion I grew from it and the love I got from it by watching a gentleman who made thousands and thousands of bolo ties. I mean, I'm up to 169. You can see the number there, and I number them, and I put my information on the back of them and everything, and I'm up to 169, and he made 35,000 bolo ties. So it can grow. It's a kind of a legacy too. You get your name out there. Some people see that. I sit at a park and whittle when my kids play on the playground. It's something. It's a time consumer. I sit there and visit, hang out when I'm on campouts with scouts or whatever, or youth groups or whatever. I sit there and I carve, and it helps me just unwind and clear my mind and enjoy the moment. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you, and I hope it starts a passion in you, and I hope things grow, and I hope other hobbies. Woodworking is a hobby to me. I do a lot of woodworking and furniture and trim. That's what I do for a living now. Is I do custom woodworking and trim work and furniture and laminate flooring and that stuff. And so it kind of snowballed into my business. From wood carving, I kind of started my business into the final details of trim and finished carpentry work from that, so it can start you in a good career. It could provide a means for you and your family. So that's just a little bit about wood carving and what it can do, and I appreciate your time. Have a good night.